Patrick Guarniere is a 20-year industry veteran, school owner, stylist, national Redken artist, and a board member of the DC Board of Barbering and Cosmetology. If you missed his last interview, we talked about his whole hair journey, getting to where he is. And now today, we're going to zoom in on some of the things such as his vantage point around the future generation, being a school owner, and being on the DC Board of Barbers and Cosmetology. Welcome back to the Hairdresser Strong Show. My name is Robert Hughes, and I'm your host. Today, I'm with Patrick Guarniere. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm good, Robert. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Well, thanks so much for coming back on the show. And I really enjoyed our last conversation. And for anybody who's tuning in and did not get a chance to hear your story, would you give us like a quick high-level kind of recap of your story, kind of leading from school to where you are?
Yeah, I was, graduated from Graham Webb. The first salon I worked in, we were a Redken elite salon. Super fortunate to be around tons of Redken education, which led to me becoming an artist for them and educating. And then through that journey and meeting people, the opportunity to open the school sort of fell in my lap. So we opened the Salon Professional Academy, and that's where I spend most of my time now.
Nice. Awesome. If you did not hear or listen or watch his previous episode, it's pretty good. You should definitely check it out. Like the steps and how he went and like applied himself and utilized various items and advice for how to get to becoming a stage educator or what it's like to be a school owner. You should definitely check it out. Okay, so today why don't we start off with this whole I still feel like the conversation is still being had about, what can we expect from the future? There's a lot of conversation about young people and what they're interested in or what their work ethic is like. And I'm curious to know from your perspective, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of the next generation of hairdressers?
Oh, I think the first thing I would think of, like the first thing that popped in my mind just now was constant change, and I think that's where our industry is right now is like so many things are really in the process of shifting. Some of them that we probably didn't even realize were happening and more to come, because and I love it. Like we talked about a little bit, our last interview, like I love their mentality now of like people coming into the business is that they, when I went to school, it was like, you had to do, hair, nails, skin, waxing, all of those things you had to learn. And like, they don't really want to do that stuff, and they want to come in and like, they want to learn hair. That's all they want to learn, and I think that some states are figuring it out and like, okay, because, okay, can we give them an opportunity, new stylists, to just be a hairstylist? Do they have to learn waxing or do they have to learn all these other things, But, I just think that like they've grown up sort of really knowing who they are, probably more than even I did when I was younger, and they know what they like and what they don't like. And like, that's what they want to do. And I think it's brilliant that they're, coming out of school knowing like, I just want to be a colorist or I just want to cut hair all day long, I want to be a texture specialist, whatever it may be, like, and they really want to find avenues to fulfill like that thing, for them, and not just go into a salon and, be put on the books and take everything that comes their way, like they're completely disinterested in that way of life. And to me, it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
So what about like, I imagine you talk to salon owners and hiring managers and educators that work in salons with rising stylists and maybe even some of your students, but just in general, what are you hearing from them when it comes to what the challenges that they're having, as well as what are some of the things that they're excited about or realizing or learning about the rising stylists?
I think that most of the owners and managers whatever that I've talked to, like sort of like two camps: ones that are having real success and ones that are really struggling. And maybe that's like anything in life, but I think that the ones that are having success with finding newer talent and fostering newer talent and convincing them to work for them and stay for them, it's because that they've sort of like gotten out of their own way and really listened to like what the new stylists are saying, and not trying to force them into like the box that we were all put in when we first started, you know. The I hear a lot about like, oh, this new generation is lazy. They don't like to work. You know, they have no work ethic. They, you know, they think everything should be handed to them. And I don't really think that's true. Like, I think that when they're engaged in a way that like sparks their creativity and what they're interested in, they're the hardest, you know, newer stylists and, you know, younger, I don't know how, you know, young that is, but younger stylists, they're some of the most hardworking people I know, but they just don't want to be forced into these boxes of like, you have to fit this one mold, you know? And so I think that really understanding that, like, and it's why I became a stylist, like, because you could be successful in this industry in so many different ways, right? Like, you don't have to stand behind a chair taking 20 clients a day to be successful, you know? And the salon owners that have understood that and have adapted, and, you know, I mean, even some of the major business, you know, systems and programs out there, they've all really adapted to, like, you know, it used to be, you know, 3 nights, 2 days, all weekend long was your schedule. Well, now with social media and the networking that, you know, we're able to do that way, like, you can build a clientele and be there, you know, Monday through Thursday from 9 to 5. You know what I mean? You can build that clientele. And so owners that like understand that and give them the space and the freedom to sort of do that, I guess, I think are not having great success finding new talent. But the ones that try and like, this is what I had to go through, so this is what you're going through, like, no one wants to work for that anymore, you know? I always love when owners say to me, like, well, in my day, you know, and my response is like, well, it's not your day anymore. No offense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not my day anymore, you know?
Right.
Like, you know, and, you know, when I was a new stylist, like, I did anything that my boss asked me to. I did anything that I was told. You know what I mean? Like, all those things. And you know, go mop the floor. Okay, I'll go mop the floor. You know, these new stylists, and I love it, but they're like, why? That's not what I'm here for. You know what I mean? Like, it's, I don't know. I just think that like new talent, like, they just want to be engaged in a way that like sparks their creativity and their interest. And if you allow them that space, like, they're the hardworking people that I've met in a long time.
Yeah, that's nice. That's definitely different than I agree. I hear a lot of people complaining. My personal experience has been if you think through everything like really in depth and put down on paper, I mean, not to be legalistic on paper, even if you have it memorized in your mind, but being able to tell them what your expectations are. You know, if mopping the floor is an expectation, then you make sure you say that in the beginning, because otherwise they'll be like, no, I'm not here to mop floors. And then you'd be like, you're so lazy, you know?
Right.
So it's like, what I've found is the more transparent, the more thorough you are, and the more time you take to check in with them on a regular basis to make sure that they're not kind of moving sideways on you, kind of questioning something, or maybe feeling bad about something, or maybe thinking you felt a certain way about them. They might move sideways all the way out the door.
Yeah. You know, I see it like, you know, my nephews are, you know, in their early 20s and, you know, late teens, and like, you know, and it's brilliant, but they were raised, you know, that like their opinion matters, you know, and like, whereas like when I was a new stylist, like, I would never have sat in a meeting with my boss and like, you know, gone against what was saying, you know, like, never, right? Like, I never would have done that. But they're not afraid to do that. You know what I mean? They're not afraid to like voice their opinion. And I think all they really want to know is why. Like, if you're telling me I have to do this, I want to know why. Right. And like, just what you said, like, the owners that have thought through all of that and have a well thought out program, you know, for associates or whatever it is, like, they're cool with it. They're fine. As long as you are able to give them a solid why behind what you're asking them to do. You know, what is mopping the floor going to do for me in my career? And if there's an answer, I'm willing to listen. But if it's just because I haven't employed someone else to mop the floor, we're not, you know, that's not the game we're trying to play, you know? And so like, yeah, their motivations are much different than what mine, what I think it was when we were, or I was a new stylist. It's they they want to be fulfilled and they want a great work-life balance. And how can this job and career fulfill all of the things that I want in my life? You know what I mean? How can it, I want to travel 6 months out of the year. How can this job pay for my vacation? You know what I mean? That's the stuff they want to know. That's what they're interested in. And it's great. It's great. I still don't have a good work-life balance, at all.
Yeah, no, I know. My life is my work. So,
Right.
yeah. So, I just a little side, kind of take off to the side here. I just thought of the Karate Kid and Mr. Miyagi being like, go wax the cars or go whatever he did, oil or finish the fence or paint the fence, like wax on, wax off, and then up and down. Yeah.
Right.
Imagine they need to make a remake of that where Mr. Miyagi explains himself,
At the beginning, right?
At the beginning.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's like,
yeah.
They are not going to paint a fence and they don't know why this is benefiting them. You know what I mean? You're exactly right. Like, it's that model that's like flipped. Like, the end of that movie almost has to come first for them.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And it's so brilliant, right? It's great. Like, I just think that they have really figured out like a way to be successful and still do things that they love and have the life that they want. So,
and they want to be part of the conversation. I mean, I feel like that kind of wraps everything together with like the whole why. It's like they don't want to just be barked at. That's been my experience. Okay. So I feel like you said something that I wanted to go back to, and of course I've lost it. So why don't I just ask this question from your I know what I was going to say. You've mentioned, I think it was in the last interview and in person when we've talked about you make these like comments when a salon owner comes to the school and they start talking to the students and you're like, oh, you've lost them, or something along those lines. So first thing I want to start off with, one is, how often do salon owners come into your school?
Well, before COVID, it was a lot. Like, we would on Wednesdays or almost every Wednesday we would try and have a salon in or spa in talking to the students. COVID, obviously, all that stuff stopped. We tried to do some stuff virtually with them, but we're really trying to get it. And it seems like in the last like 6 months, honestly, 6 to 8 months maybe, that like that interest is starting to peak again from salon owners like asking to come in and things. So we've really been spending some time like with our directors and stuff here, figuring out like how to do that the most effectively, because I think that also like the days of like those career fairs at, cosmetology schools where like everyone has a table and they're walking around, like no one wants to do that anymore. It's boring. It's, so we've been really trying to figure out like a more effective way to do stuff like that. But we're getting a lot of owner requests because it seems like right now, everyone's looking for new talent. Like every salon owner I know is looking for people. Every spa, that I've talked to is looking for people because there's so much work available. I have friends that own salons over in Logan Circle, and they're like, we're turning people away every day. Like, we need a new, it's just like everyone's, the industry is really picking back up and everything's, just sort of booming again.
What do you think that that's a product of new businesses opening, or do you think that's a product of them losing their stylists as a result of the pandemic? Like, it sounds kind of an interesting that there's all of a sudden this flood of need for new talent. So where's that coming from?
I think it's probably somewhere right in the middle. Like, I think that a lot of businesses, and this sort of ties into like what we were just talking about, but a lot of businesses that weren't changing with the industry lost a lot of stylists to booth rental, suites, things like that. And so those salons are trying to backfill, but the salons that I know that like have happy teams and they, like they just, it's like they're a magnet because their culture is so great that like, like clients want to go. And so they're, it's just like, I think it's sort of in the middle. Like,
Okay. And then, so the next question and within that is, So or sorry, let me go back. So it does sound like maybe there is enough demand to come into the schools to talk to the students from salon owners. Would you say that that's right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you're not saying, hey, if you're a salon owner in the DMV, I want you to come into my students. You're saying, no, people are coming, and that's not there's not like a call to action to the local industry to go into the schools. Is that accurate?
Uh, well, I would love. I mean, no. If anyone listening wants to come in and talk to the students, like we would love it. You know what I mean? Like, yes. And I think that like so maybe that's a separate like two pieces is like coming in to talk to like recruit versus being involved in your local school to sort of shape what's coming out. Like those are two very different things. You know what I mean? And so, um, our franchise, there's like 20, 30 schools, whatever we have. Not one of the owners in our franchise would turn down a salon that like came to us and said like, I want to get more involved. You know what I mean? In shaping the new stylists and the new talent and things like that. That every owner should be doing and getting involved in with their schools and one of the things that we have to have is an advisory board where we meet with salons and spas that hire our graduates. Like schools would love it if you want, owners wanted to be on their advisory board to talk about, industry trends, what's changing, what they're seeing, for us to run, our curriculum, what we're doing, how we're doing it by, you as a salon owner and, hey, is this producing what your needs are right now, like what skills are missing, where can we focus more? So I think those are two separate things. Like, yeah, come in and talk about, you need staff, but get involved and help shape and, what your school's doing, your local
Okay,
school.
so that is very interesting, and I definitely think I just learned that for the first time that schools have advisory boards. Is that something that's part of accreditation for the
Yeah.
schools? It's
Yep.
mandatory.
Yeah.
So
Part of our,
everybody listening, it's you can be involved in your local school's education. You just got to hit them up. So
yeah.
I just hit you up and say, hey, I want to talk about like what it means to be as a part of your advisory board.
Yeah. Hey, like, do you have an advisory board? If you do, I'd love to be a part of it. And how can I get involved? I mean, I think that like that's sort of been like one of the most shocking things to me like since we've opened this school is like schools have this like big bad like reputation. You know what I mean? That it's like there's the school, and then when you graduate, like your career really sort of finally takes off, and you know what I'm saying? Like, and it doesn't have to be that way. You know what I mean? Like what I don't think people don't understand about the schools a lot, which has sort of led me into the other areas that I with like the DC board is that we are so heavily regulated, that like, when people are like, schools don't teach you anything and they're just there to make you pass your exams and, but every hour that I teach a cosmetology student has to fit into like one of 10 buckets that the board says I can teach from, you know what I mean? And so it's like, a lot of it isn't about like, all I care about is preparing them for their exam. It's like, that's all we're able to do. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so like getting involved in the schools, coming in, getting involved in your local boards and the regulation side and like, what are we asking of schools right now? That's a whole nother side that, we have a board of barber and cosmetology meeting every month. Every single month, DC has one. And I think we just had one last week and there were two people on it that were not part of the board. Two people were on the meeting. So getting involved that way, I think, is like such an area of opportunity for our industry that not enough people take advantage of.
All right. Well, I'll be
That's my
I'll be
soapbox
hitting
for the day.
I'll be hitting you up about getting on the advisory board, and I will also I'll be looking. I got to figure out when. So when are the dates for the DC cosmetology board? Is it like the
First
second
Monday of every month.
first Monday of every month?
Yeah.
I'm writing that down in the middle of this interview.
August is recess, so we don't have one in August, but
Okay.
first Monday of every month, typically, unless there's a holiday, it bumps back to the next week. And that's even from being like on the other side, like being a member of the board for this year, they're all really great people. They're all really great people. It just nothing is going to ever, I just sort of got to a place where I decided that like I couldn't just sit and complain about something if I wasn't willing to get involved and try and change what I thought needed to be changed for the better. And so that led me to apply for the board as many times as I did. Ultimately, finally got the yes, and got on the board this past year. But yeah, I mean, like there's such an opportunity for people, our whole industry to get involved and be a part of the meetings, ask questions, give your ideas, what you think needs to happen.
Well, I love this, and I feel like we can keep talking because there's like so many things that have come up in this conversation. But I think this is a good place to wrap it up. I mean, I'm gonna ask you this question, even though you just did it. But is there any last things to say or calls to action for the industry that you'd like to kind of drive home a little bit as we sign off?
One of my missions this year has been to get more actively involved in the industry that I love so much. Everything I have in life is because I became a hairstylist first, So the only thing I would almost beg of people that is just to get involved in some way. Your local board, your local school, get involved. High schools around you that have, cosmetology programs, just get involved, because when we all start doing that, that's how our industry is going to continue to evolve into better places for everyone that comes behind us.
100%. I love this. All right. Well, thank you so much, Patrick, for taking the time. I know you're a very busy person, and I really do appreciate it. And I really do. I learned something, and I'm going to be taking, what you said and being more active, and especially now that I know this thing about the advisory board. So thanks for sharing that. And yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. All right. Until next time, I'll talk to you later.